This is the kind of story that teaches us that not everything we see is what it looks like. Some people may act strange, some people may look foolish, but deep inside, they may be carrying secrets that can save lives. In this story, you will see laughter in the middle of tears, anger in the middle of grief, and a mystery that no one in the village of Yumaro expected. Once upon a time, in a quiet and beautiful village called Yumaro, there lived a strange man named Inami. Yumaro was not a big place. It was a village of red soil paths, mud houses with thatched roofs, and farms filled with yam, cassava, and maize. The people of Yumaro were simple, hard-working, and deeply respectful of their traditions. They feared the gods, respected the elders, and loved their festivals. But in the middle of this peaceful village stood one man who never behaved like everyone else. That man was Inami. Inami was not old, but not young either. He was about 45 years old, tall and thin, with a long face that looked tired and eyes that seemed to laugh even when his lips were silent. His hair was always rough, his clothes always dusty, as if he did not care much about himself. Children in the village feared him, women whispered about him, and men shook their heads when he passed. Why? Because Inami had a habit that no one understood. He laughed at funerals. When someone died and the whole village gathered to cry and mourn, when drums beat slowly and women wailed loudly, Inami would stand at the edge of the crowd and laugh. His laughter was not small. It was loud, clear, and frightening, like a man who had just heard the funniest story of his life. People hated it. They thought he was cursed or maybe mad. Some believed he had no heart. Others whispered that dark spirits followed him. But Inami never explained himself. Whenever anyone asked him why he laughed at funerals, he would simply smile and walk away, leaving people even more confused. In Yumaro village, the oldest man was Elder Obina. He was wise, respected, and loved by everyone. Children ran to him for stories, women brought him food, and men listened when he gave advice. He was like the father of the whole village. So when Elder Obina died suddenly one morning, Yumaro was filled with sorrow. The drums of mourning beat slowly, women rolled on the ground and cried, and men sat with their heads bowed. On the day of his funeral, the whole village gathered. It was a heavy day. The priest stood at the center, the coffin was placed in front, and everyone was dressed in black or deep blue wrappers. The air was thick with sadness. And then, Inami came. He wore his usual dusty brown shirt. His wrapper was torn, and his slippers made a slapping sound as he walked. People turned to look at him, whispering. Some mothers quickly pulled their children close, afraid of what he might do. The priest began to pray. Songs of sorrow filled the air. Elder Obina's family wailed. And just as the coffin was about to be lowered into the ground, Inami threw back his head and laughed. The sound cut through the crying. It was not soft. It was loud, sharp, and painful. Some villagers gasped. Others shouted in anger. Chaik, the son of Elder Obina, could not take it. His face was wet with tears, his chest burning with grief. He stood up and shouted at Inami. "How dare you laugh at my father's death? Are you mad? Are you cursed? You insult his memory with your foolishness." The crowd nodded and muttered in agreement. But Inami did not stop smiling. He wiped tears of laughter from his eyes, and in a calm voice he said, "I laugh because I see what you cannot." Then he turned and walked away. The village fell silent. No one understood. What did he see? What did he mean? From that day, the people of Yumaro feared him even more. After the funeral, strange whispers began to move across the village. Some said Inami was possessed by evil spirits. Others said he could see the dead. Children were warned not to go near his hut at the edge of the village. Women swore they would never greet him again. But one person could not let it go, Chaik. Chaik was a strong young man, about 25 years old. He was proud of his father and loved him dearly. Elder Obina's death had left a deep wound in his heart. And now this strange man had laughed at his father's funeral and spoken words that made no sense. What did he see? What did he know? Chike decided he would find out. One evening, after the farm work was done and the sun was sinking behind the tall palm trees, Chike walked quietly to Inami's hut. The hut was small, made of mud and palm leaves, and it looked abandoned. Grass grew high around it. A faint smell of herbs came from inside. Inami was sitting at the entrance, his long legs stretched out, humming to himself. He looked up as Chike approached. "You came," Inami said simply, as if he had been expecting him. Chike frowned. "Why did you laugh at my father's funeral?" Inami smiled. "Because death is not the end. Your father is not gone. He speaks, but you cannot hear him." Chike felt cold shivers run down his back. "What do you mean?" Inami's eyes grew serious. "Your father was murdered." Chike could not sleep that night. The words of Inami echoed in his head. "Your father was murdered." Sounded impossible. Elder Obina had died in his sleep, quietly, with no sickness. The priest said it was his time. But now doubt was planted in Chike's heart. He remembered his father's last days. How the old man had sometimes touched his chest after eating. How he had complained once about a strange bitterness in his soup. Could it be true? The next day, Chike tried to push the thought away. But everywhere he turned, he saw Inami's face in his mind, smiling strangely, whispering that death was not the end. He tried to ask his mother, but she shut him down with tears. "Do not speak such madness, my son. Do not let grief poison your mind." But Chike could not stop thinking. Something was wrong. And though he did not trust Inami fully, he knew one thing. Inami's laughter was not ordinary. It was the beginning of something dark. The night after Inami's words, Chike lay on his bamboo bed, his eyes wide open. The moonlight slipped in through the cracks of the window, but instead of calm, he felt restless. He remembered his father's smile, his deep voice, the way he sat under the mango tree in the evenings telling stories to children. The thought that someone might have poisoned him was like a thorn in Chike's heart. But there was no proof. Only Inami's strange laughter. Days turned into weeks. Life in Yumaro began to return to normal. Farmers went back to their fields. Women went to the market with baskets on their heads. Children played in the dust. But for Chike, nothing felt normal. He kept hearing his father's voice in his dreams, calling him softly. "Chike, the truth." And then tragedy struck again. Amaka was one of the most loved young women in Yumaro. She was only 20 years old, kind, beautiful, and always smiling. Her laughter was like a song that lifted people's hearts. Everyone said she would soon marry and bless her husband's house with joy. But one morning news spread like fire. Amaka was dead. She had fallen sick suddenly during the night. Her parents rushed her to the herbalist, but before sunrise she was gone. The whole village was shaken. People cried in the streets. "How can a flower so young wither so quickly?" they asked. On the day of her funeral, the sky was gray, and the wind was heavy. The drums beat slowly again, the same way they did for Elder Obina. People wore dark wrappers, and the air was thick with sorrow. And then, as the coffin was brought out, someone gasped. Inami had arrived. Just like before. He wore his dusty brown shirt and torn wrapper. He stood at the edge of the crowd, silent at first. But as the priest lifted his hands to pray, Inami laughed. This time the sound was even louder. It rolled through the crowd like thunder, cutting into the cries of Amaka's mother. People turned in shock, anger burning in their eyes. Amaka's mother screamed through her tears. "Why? Why do you laugh at my daughter's death? Is this your joy? Is my pain your entertainment?" For a moment Inami stopped. His smile faded, and his voice came deep and low. "I laugh because the truth is near." The villagers froze. No one understood. Whispers broke out. What truth? Whose truth? Inami looked around at the crowd, his eyes shining strangely. The dead are restless. They demand justice. And then, just like before, he walked away. Chike's chest tightened as he watched. First his father, now Amaka. 2 deaths, both sudden, both suspicious. And in both funerals, Inami's laughter had pierced the air with strange words. Could it be true? Could there be a hidden hand behind these deaths? That night, Chaik could not stay silent anymore. He went again to Inami's hut. The man was seated as always, humming to himself, his eyes looking far away as if he could see things others could not. "You must tell me everything," Chaik demanded. His voice shook with both fear and anger. Inami smiled faintly. "The dead speak, Chaik. They speak to me in laughter. Elder Obina did not die by old age. He was poisoned. And Amaka, she saw the truth and was silenced." Chaik's hands clenched into fists. "Who killed them?" Inami leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your father's own brother, Ease." The name struck Chaik like a heavy blow. Ease. His uncle. The man who had stood by the family during the funeral, who had shed tears and spoken kindly. No, it was impossible. "You lie," Chaik spat. "Ease's blood. He would never." But Inami only smiled sadly. "Blood can betray blood, my son. Greed is stronger than love when the heart is poisoned." Chaik shook his head, but his mind began to remember things. His father had complained of strange bitterness in his food before his death. Who had been serving him? The housemaid Ada. And who always came to the compound during mealtimes? Uncle Ease. A chill spread down Chaik's spine. The next day, Chaik went quietly to speak with Ada. She was a young woman, shy and soft-spoken, who had served Elder Obina's household for years. First she denied everything. But when Chaik pressed harder, her eyes filled with tears. "I never meant harm," she whispered. "But your Uncle Ease. He told me to add the herbs into Baba's soup. He said it was medicine. I did not know it was poison until Baba died." Chaik's body trembled. Rage filled his chest. "And Amaka? Did you know about her too?" Ada shook her head quickly. No. I only know that Amaka came to the house one evening, saying she had found out something about your uncle. She looked afraid. The next morning she was gone." Chaik's heart sank. It was true. Inami had not lied. That night, Chaik returned to Inami, shaking with anger and confusion. "You were right," he admitted. Ada confessed. "But how can I fight my own uncle? How can I prove it before the whole village?" Inami's eyes gleamed. "The dead do not rest until truth is spoken. We will bring it out. We will not fight with fists, but with the voice of justice." Together they began to plan. Inami taught Chaik how to listen in silence, how to watch people closely, how to let guilt show itself. "A guilty man is never free," Inami said. "He is always looking over his shoulder, afraid of shadows." They decided to set a trap. A public one, in front of the elders of Yumaro. But Chaik's heart was heavy. This was his uncle, his blood. Could he really expose him? Could he carry the shame that would fall on their family name? Inami's words haunted him. Blood can betray blood. The chance came faster than expected. A week later, Ease invited the family to a dinner. He killed a fat goat, brought palm wine, and called the elders to join. "This is to honor the memory of my late brother," he said with a wide smile. "We must stay united as a family." But Chaik knew the truth behind the smile. His heart pounded as he took his seat. Ada, pale and frightened, served the food with trembling hands. The elders laughed and ate, enjoying the feast. When the meal was almost done, Chaik stood up suddenly. His voice rang out, "My Uncle Ease is a murderer." The room fell silent. The elders froze. Ease's smile dropped. "What madness is this?" he shouted. "Are you drunk, boy?" Inami stepped forward from the shadows. His laughter filled the room, sharp and chilling. Then he placed a folded paper on the table. Ada's written confession. Gasps filled the air. The elders turned to Ease, whose face was now covered in sweat. His hand shook. He tried to deny it, but under the weight of many eyes, his voice broke. "Yes," he cried out. Yes, I poisoned him. He took the land that should have been mine. And Amaka, she found out. She wanted to expose me. I had no choice. The hall erupted in chaos. The elders shouted in anger. Women screamed. Ada collapsed in tears. Isa's fate was sealed. When Isa's words of confession echoed through the room, the elders were struck silent for a long moment. Then, like fire on dry grass, their anger spread. You poisoned your own brother, shouted Elder Madu, his staff of authority trembling in his hand. You silenced Amaka, cried one of the women, tears of rage streaming down her cheeks. People rose from their seats, shouting and cursing. Some wanted to beat Ise immediately. Others called for the priest. Ada sobbed in a corner, her face buried in her wrapper. Ise sank to his knees, shaking. Forgive me. I was blinded by land and greed. I didn't mean. But the elders would hear no more. Elder Madu struck his staff on the ground 3 times. The sound cut through the chaos, silencing everyone. Ise has shamed this land, Elder Madu declared. He has poisoned blood and murdered the innocent. Such a man cannot remain among us. The crowd roared in agreement. The next morning, the entire village gathered in the square. The sun was high, but the air was heavy with judgment. Ise was brought forward, his hands tied with rope. His eyes darted around in fear, but there was no pity in the faces watching him. The priest raised his hand. By the gods of our fathers, by the spirits of the land, we declare Ise banished. He must leave Yumaro and never return. Whoever gives him food or shelter will share in his curse. The villagers shouted. So it is. Ise cried out, begging, but no one listened. He was pushed out of the village with nothing but the clothes on his back. His cries faded into the distance, swallowed by the forest path. Ada the maid was also judged. Because she confessed and said she did not know the truth at first, she was spared death but sent away from the village forever. Justice had been served. But the village was not the same. After that day, Yumaro grew quiet. People spoke less, their laughter was weaker, and their trust in one another was broken. If a brother could kill a brother, if a young girl could be silenced for the truth, then who could anyone trust? Chaik carried a heavy heart. He had wanted justice, but the shame that fell on his family felt like a wound that would never heal. Whenever he walked through the village, people stared. Some pitied him, others whispered. He often sat under the mango tree where his father once told stories, staring into the distance. But one man seemed lighter, almost free. Inami. After the judgment, Chaik went to Inami's hut. He wanted to thank him for exposing the truth, even though it had torn his family apart. But when he reached the hut, he found it empty. The door was open, the inside bare. The herbs were gone, the mat was rolled up, and the fire pit was cold. Inami had vanished. Chaik stood there in silence, the wind brushing against his face. He felt both sadness and relief. Inami had brought pain, but he had also brought truth. As Chaik turned to leave, he heard something faint in the wind. Soft, distant, yet clear. Laugh. Not loud, not mocking. Gentle. Almost like a goodbye. Chaik closed his eyes. For the first time he understood. Inami had never laughed to mock the dead. He laughed because he saw the truth that others could not see. He laughed at the foolishness of lies, at the hidden things that would always come to light. From that day, Chaik carried a new lesson in his heart, and the story of Inami was told to children in Yumaro for years to come. Backhand index pointing right. No matter how deeply someone hides the truth, it will one day come out. Backhand index pointing right. Even family can betray, so always walk in honesty and love. Backhand index pointing right. Do not laugh at people you don't understand, because what looks like madness may be wisdom in disguise. And so, the man who laughed at funerals became a legend. His laughter echoed not as mockery, but as a warning that justice always finds its voice. The village of Yumaro never forgot him. And whenever the wind carried a faint laugh through the trees, people paused, bowed their heads and remembered. Truth never dies. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again. But if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.